I have a problem with Wall Street folks, with corporations, with big pharma, with big tech, with big ag. Those are the people that are taking down American wages. Those are the people that are sucking money out of our bank accounts. And
So
I'm not being.
is it your view that the Ramos family should be allowed to stay here?
Is it correct, though, that we have a system that allows for undocumented people to get loans, to pay taxes, and to contribute economically to the system?
Certainly some do pay taxes, but many.
Oh, I can already feel my blood pressure rising, because today we're talking about the laziest right-wing hobby in America: blaming immigrants for everything. Wages, crime, housing, your terrible vibes, all of it. And the reason I'm locked in on this one is Corbin Trent, former comms for AOC, strategist in Bernie World, co-founded Justice Democrats. The man has made a career out of taking these slick little talking points and snapping them in half on live panels. And lately, he's been doing it again. Not with vibes, with actual cause and effect. Corporate greed, Wall Street incentives, systemic inequality. So we're going to watch this together, and I want you clocking the tricks, the framing, the scapegoats. If you like this kind of no-nonsense breakdown, subscribe right now.
Joining me now, Scotty Nell Hughes, former Trump surrogate and political commentator, and Corbin Trent, Democratic strategist, former communications director to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and former Bernie Sanders campaign strategist. Welcome to you both. Thank you so much for joining me. Scotty, let me start with you. Did you know that the Ramos family had been ordered deported by a judge in March? I mean, the media barely covered this.
Of course they didn't cover it. That doesn't fit their narrative. Obviously, it's a very heartbreaking story. Everybody wants what's best as a parent for their child. But Batya, I want to give you a lot of kudos for having the courage to say what many news anchors won't say right now, is the fact that the law was broken, the fraud was broken. And here's where the double standard is. You pointed out the everyday impact that illegal immigration is having on Americans. Let me point out the criminal impact. I mean, I don't see these same tears for Sarah Root's parents in 2016, who was killed by a drunk driver, an illegal immigrant here that was street racing the day after she graduated from college. Jocelyn and Gary, 12-year-old, kidnapped, brutally strangulated. The list goes on of illegal immigrants that are committing heinous crimes in America. Nobody's crying for their parents. And so that's why I think I get that obviously this is a horrible situation for a family. Nobody wants to see them separated. But until a community stands up against those that are here, that are damaging their ability to stay here without any sort of transit deportation, you're not going to see much heart of Americans change in this way, as long as these kinds of crimes are happening in our streets.
Corbin, where are you on this? I mean, is your view that... Okay, go ahead.
Oh, I mean, there's math involved, right? I know math is hard for some people, but the mathematical calculations tell us that illegal immigrants, especially undocumented immigrants, even more so than regular documented immigrants, are the least likely group of people to violate the law in America, aside from the immigration law. They are the least violent group. There's a lot of reasons for that, but that's one of the least violent groups, period. And then comes documented immigrants, and then comes native-born Americans. The fact is, if we wanted to, this is not about violence. This is not, I could tell you dozens and dozens of names who were killed by white guys. Does that mean white guys are evil or white guys are bad or we should all go to, Australia?
Corbin,
no, it doesn't.
Yeah, it's true that the data shows that they are slightly less likely to commit crimes, but isn't it fair for an American citizen to say, I'm stuck with my fellow citizens who are criminals. I'm not stuck with illegal migrants. Every crime that they commit is a failure of policy that could have been prevented by a secure border. And moreover, I guess to me, because you and I agree on the question of, the achieving of the American dream for working class Americans. I mean, the economic impact to me is really the big piece here, right? Let's take the Ramos family, right? Either they're working, in which case they're driving down the wages for working class Americans, or they're not working, in which case working class Americans are subsidizing them living here. Don't you have a problem with that?
I have a problem with Wall Street folks, with corporations, with big pharma, with big tech, with big ag. Those are the people that are taking down American wages. Those are the people that are sucking money out of our bank accounts and have been for the last 60 years. No, I have a problem with the way this system's structured. For one thing, undocumented immigrants can pay taxes. They get tax ID numbers. They can get loans. You're aware of this, right? They can get loans, they can pay taxes, they can participate in our economic system. You are aware that that's correct.
Okay, so is it your view that the Ramos family should be allowed to stay here?
Is it correct, though, that we have a system that allows for undocumented people to get loans, to pay taxes, and to contribute economically to the system?
Certainly some do pay taxes, but many more don't. But Corbin, can you just say, do you think they should stay?
I'm just saying, though, the one thing I want to know is we have a federal system
Corbin, should
that
they be
allows for
allowed
these...
to stay here? Should that
we have a system that allows them to stay here.
Okay, all right. I want to ask you something, Scotty. I don't know if you noticed that the mother here is now pregnant, it seems like. Because of birthright citizenship, if she can run out the clock, her child will be an American citizen. And I think that it so encapsulates what that question is about for the administration. Do you see it the same way?
Absolutely. And Badia, let me point out to my colleague here, just because we have a system in place that we've been forced to put in place doesn't mean it's being implemented. People who come here illegally that don't have regard for our law in the first place doesn't mean that they're going to just wake up one day and say, well, but I'm going to agree to all these other laws in America. Some might do the right things, but there's a large percentage that doesn't. And the reason why we don't know how many percentage, just like with crime rates, is that we aren't able to get accurate data of exactly how much we are having to subsidize those that come across the border illegally.
Right, and there it is, the classic move. One tragic case gets wheeled out like it's a spreadsheet. Like if you can name a victim, you've somehow proven a whole population is a threat. That's not analysis, that's emotional blackmail dressed up as policy. And Scotty Nell Hughes, come on. She's been in that Trump surrogate lane for years, where the job is never to solve anything. It's to keep you scared enough to stop asking who's actually picking your pocket. Because if we're all staring at migrants, we're not staring at wage theft. We're not staring at union busting. We're not staring at landlords and monopoly pricing. And then Batia does this little rhetorical judo. Sure, the data says they commit less crime, but I still don't want them here. That's not a principle, that's vibes. That's just saying the quiet part with a cardigan on. Corbin's point about maths matters because we've seen this movie. The right picks a villain group, then sells crackdowns that somehow never touch the CEOs, fine-tuning this economy to grind working people into dust. Also, the birthright citizenship wink. That's straight from the nativist playbook. Tell me I'm not the only one hearing it.
How many are not paying taxes? How many are not taking out loans? There are issue after issue. And the reason why we cannot necessarily have a direct number like you're asking for is because we can't hold anybody accountable because we don't know how and who to hold accountable.
I wasn't asking for a direct number. I was asking about the system in which we've
built. But that doesn't mean that they're doing it.
Corbin, final minute uninterrupted to Corbin, because I hate when it ends up 2 against 1. Go ahead, Corbin. The floor is yours.
My point is that we've created a system that allows for undocumented people to participate. We don't do this for escaped convicts. We don't do this. It's not that we had to do this. We decided to make a system that allowed for tax revenue, that allowed for people to participate in getting loans for cars and for houses and personal loans and take out credit cards and Home Depot accounts. We wanted the participation. The people wanted the undocumented people to participate. That's why Ronald Reagan gave amnesty in the 1980s. The fact is that undocumented people, just like documented immigrants, are a big part of our economic fabric, a big part of our social fabric. They pay taxes. They do the same things that Americans do. And I'm from Appalachia, and I'll tell you, culturally, I got a lot of Californians here. I got a lot of New Yorkers here that are moving to Tennessee, and they're actually raising the home prices here. It's not the undocumented people. They're lowering the home prices. And culturally, I get along much better with the immigrants than I do with the New Yorkers and the Californians because they're more culturally like us here in Appalachia. Because they have family values. They have barbecues outside in their yards. They talk to each other. They go to church every day. This is very different than the New Yorkers and the Californians that come here and run up our prices. The people that are driving me out of my home
I don't disagree with that.
are not immigrants.
I think a lot of the people who come from Central and South America, Latin America, they're very similar to us culturally. To me, they still have to go home because of the economic piece. Corbin Trent, Scotty Nell Hughes, God bless and protect you both. I so enjoy having you both on. Thank you so much for joining me.
No, hold on. Did you catch what just happened there? Because everyone's been trained to listen for the flashy bit, the gotcha, the crime anecdote, the spooky music under the chyron. But what Corbin did in that last stretch was way more lethal than a clapback. He basically dragged the whole conversation out of the cartoon universe and back into the real country we actually live in. He didn't even take the bait. That's the part that matters. The right-wing panel script is always the same. Corner the guest into either sounding like they're defending illegality or force them to denounce a group of people like they're a plague. And when Corbin refuses to do that and starts talking about systems, the wheels come off. Because systems are where the receipts live. Systems are where the employers live, the lenders, the landlords, the politicians who quietly enjoy the labour and the tax base while screaming about invasions into a camera. And I'm sorry, but the hypocrisy is just stunning. These people will say, we can't track them, and in the same breath admit the economy is literally structured to pull them in. You cannot build an economy that depends on cheap, vulnerable labour, then act morally offended when that labour shows up. That's not politics, that's a con. Here's what I also noticed. Corbyn did something very smart culturally. He didn't do the usual coastal lecture. He spoke as someone from Appalachia. He basically said, I know my community, I know what's happening here, and I know who is and isn't responsible for the pressure people are feeling. That matters, because the MAGA industrial complex survives on pretending working-class anger belongs to them by default. Like frustration is their property. Like if your rent's up and your wages are flat, you must obviously want to blame a migrant. No, mate. People want an explanation that fits their lived reality. And when someone on a panel actually sounds like he's lived it, the scapegoat story starts to wobble. Also, can we talk about the accidental honesty from the other side? One of them basically says, culturally, I like them, but they still have to go home. That is the entire emotional core of this movement right there. It's not about values. It's not even about crime. It's about control. It's about wanting the benefits of people's work without granting the dignity of belonging. You're useful until you're visible. You're welcome until you ask for rights. And that's why these debates always end up circling back to paperwork and purity tests and who counts as a real American. Because the economic argument is weaker than they pretend. If they had a genuine plan to raise wages and bring down housing costs, you'd hear it. If they had a serious enforcement plan that punished employers who exploit undocumented labour, you'd hear it. But you don't. You hear vibes. You hear fear. You hear performance. Corbyn's been doing this for years. Former AOC comms guy, Justice Democrats co-founder, Bernie World. He's not just quick on TV. He understands what narratives do. He understands that scapegoating immigrants is a pressure release valve for an economic model that's failing ordinary people. And recently, he's been on panels calling out how commentators use immigrants as a decoy while corporate power hoovers up the gains. That's why clips like this travel. So what does this mean going forward? It means if you care about border policy, fine, argue border policy, but stop letting media grifters turn it into a moral panic that conveniently protects the wealthy and punishes the desperate. Demand specifics. Demand accountability that actually points upward. And if a politician is screaming about illegals, but never once goes after the businesses profiting off the mess, you already know what game they're playing. All right, I want to know what you think. Did Corbyn win this on substance, or did the panel just expose how empty the anti-immigrant talking points are when someone refuses to play along? If you enjoyed this and you want more blunt reality therapy from a Brit watching America set itself on fire in 4K, subscribe. And I've got another one for you right after this, where I go in on a live TV moment with a British journalist absolutely dismantling a MAGA pastor without raising his voice. You'll love it. Go watch that next.